Welcome everybody back to NODNARB'S Closet. I am Brandon from EDAW'S. Usually like radio hosts or like talk show hosts like to butter up the person. And it seems fake and ungenuine. But yeah, I'm still going to butter them up. Mold. I have Nick here today. Some of the most unique stuff that I've witnessed coming into this. And I don't know what type of music you listen to, but I have a heavy presence with daughters and now newly chat pile. So it's kind of easy for me because I kind of feel like even if you don't want to hear this, you're kind of like that of the hobby, which I really enjoy because it's fucking batshit insane. And there's not to say that other people don't have talent. A lot of people like to stick in the lines, it appears, but you get those rare glimpses of somebody that actually wants to do something completely outside of the spectrum of what people could consider any kind of tabletop role-playing miniature. But now that I've kissed your ass for a sufficient amount of time, and am personally going through a midlife crisis because I just turned 38 a few days ago, which is fine.
Happy birthday!
It's fine. I mean, it's 2 more years. I feel like the 40 is the new 20.
That's what they say.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe 30. I can live with that.
I'm 37. I got
it. Yeah. So we're getting up there. I'm very cold all the time. I don't know why. It just switched, except for my feet. This is what we're going to talk about. This is all we're going to talk about for the next hour. Nick, how did you kind of... ailments. Yeah.
Like I make sounds when I stand up now.
Yeah, sound. Actually, that would be very mold of us if we completely talked about something else.
Yeah.
Like our prescriptions. We'll just talk about our prescriptions and our social security numbers. On this side, and then we'll get off because we got to go to bed at 6:30. Anyways, Nick, I know that it's hard for a lot of people to say that they're even an artist, but what's the thing that kind of pushes what you're putting out? What's the mental mindset for that?
So I think this is kind of something that I've talked to a lot of people that are into the hobby right now who have a sort of similar trajectory where we did it when we were younger, like maybe high school, middle school, whatever, and then got back into it in our 30s, which I don't know why that's the case. It just seems like maybe because we have more money now, we can,
now we can finally, midlife crisis. We're all in a midlife crisis, even the young guys.
Absolutely.
Girls.
For me, it was, so I was living in New York. I lived there for like 10 years. I went to art school there. I studied painting and, I was like trying to be a painter. I had a series of studios that I kept getting kicked out of just because, landlords in New York realized they can make more money turning a shitty old building into condos instead of having artists in their painting. So
yeah, why would they do that? Yeah.
But it happened.
Culture. Yeah,
exactly. But it happened over and over. Like I would have a place for like a year and then they kick us all out. And like 2019, that happened again. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. I don't feel like paying an extra $800 a month to have a place to work. And my goal was just to kind of find something that I could do in my apartment and just sort of like bought a box of bloodletters and some green stuff and kind of had at it. And immediately I was like, oh yeah, I really like doing this. Like this is more satisfying than painting on canvas for me. Kind of right away. It just felt right. Felt good. And like, I think the sort of aesthetics have changed so much since I was like into it when I was in high school, whatever, or I'm just aware more of it. But like coming across like Matt Ross, totally not panicking, like coming across his stuff was kind of a big moment for me where I was like, oh, okay, like you can kind of approach this in like a painterly way, or Gardens of Tate, like a bunch of people that I think do take like a painterly approach. And so that was sort of like inspiring and also validating, like, yeah, like this could be kind of like a legitimate sort of outlet as a painter almost.
Yeah, and I think I think that's the same story for a lot of people. Those two people standing out to a lot of people. And it's kind of hard never to give them credit. I talked to both of them on the pod, and great people. Yeah, it really is nice to see something. No offense to anybody that paints like GW, but see something completely fucking different. Now, I mean, it helps me to create the style that I do now with oil, and I fuck with gouache still, but I'm thinking about sponging that idea. So you were a painter before. Were you painting more of creations of like monsters or anything of that nature in the past?
Undergrad for me was like, I was really excited about like learning how to paint, like do oil painting in like a really traditional kind of straightforward way. I don't know, it like just felt good to learn that and like feel like I was kind of really like getting to understand the medium. So like, yeah, really excited about that. I was really into that, and I went to a very traditional MFA program in New York. It's called the New York Academy of Art, and it's loosened up a little bit, but
Heard of it.
it was, yeah, it's, you know, it's a good school. Andy Warhol started it, and his whole philosophy behind it was that like in the 80s he thought that nobody in New York knew how to draw anymore, so he wanted there to be sort of a place to learn how to draw and how to paint in kind of a traditional way. So yeah, I went to that school specifically because I kind of wanted to continue like just doing like observational painting, and then I got there and I was like, I don't really want to do this anymore, and
Yeah.
sort of started, I don't know, like wanting to paint stuff from my head more. And you know, I was really fortunate. I found an advisor there who kind of encouraged me to like, you know, branch out and kind of explore some different types of paintings. And also just like being in New York and seeing art, a lot of art in person, a lot of painting in person that I wasn't really aware of. I saw a show of Philip Guston's paintings when I was kind of had just moved to New York. That was kind of a like blew my mind. And I think really,
Eye opener.
yeah, totally. It's like this is something else you can do with paint, and like you can have those sort of skills and still, you know, sort of put them into something that's a little, you know,
Right.
weirder, a little more
If you have
abstract.
a similarly fucked up brain than a lot of the people
Yeah,
that we associate with ourselves now, we're driven to like brinks of madness, I think, with some of
yeah,
the stuff that we make.
yeah,
Uh, I and it's fun as fuck. I mean, it's one of the greatest feelings ever. I can't stop thinking about what I'm gonna do next on my bell tower, much less like,
yeah,
have this interview,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
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 but yeah, it's a thing that's constantly on my brain. It's kind of like a drug. There's been lulls in time where nothing's coming, but as soon as you get that feeling back, it's just like a brand new, like you're feeling it for
yeah,
the first time again.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, yeah, I want to talk about you came off of this is coming off of your win in Smash Bash. Can you tell me kind of what inspired some of that? Because whenever I saw it, obviously there's some wood involved as well. That was kind of like, what? Wait, what the fuck? Why wood? I was like, that's fucking insane. And it's something as subtle as that that's really eye catching, man. Like I want to fuck with these kids running
Yeah.
around with eyeballs on wood. Like it's fucking. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's genius. And what's some of the feeling that came behind that?
So that was like the sort of 2D flat figures in there. Those are so I love going to Michael's or like going to the craft stores and kind of picking stuff up. But those are actually they're foam.
No
They're like
shit.
color form kind of foam. I don't know what else
Yeah.
to call it, but they had these packs of those figures in like,
Hmm.
you know, a bunch of different flesh tones, and then they had some other ones. They had like hands and just like rectangles and all these flesh
Man, they
tones.
thought that
But
was a cute one, huh?
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
really
yeah.
thought that one was going to be a cute seller.
But yeah, like I saw them and I was like, those are so weird. I bought them, I think, a few months before I ended up doing anything with them, just because, like, I don't know, they just were so bizarre. And when Smash Bash got announced and the theme was Battle Royale, I was just thinking of like, I like this idea of having like a sort of traditional fantasy stuff butting up against something like really insane. And so I started just kind of playing around and building with like some parry knights and just wanted to have them battling against something that had a totally different language almost. So they're,
Right.
you know, those guys are made out of foam and yarn. And, you know, the eyes are fake grapes that I cut in half and then just like
Really.
put a little paint on. Yeah, it's all just like craft store, you know, random bits.
Which makes it even better in my opinion because whenever I look at that, I was just talking to a buddy about this today. Like whenever you go into the movie theater to go see Terrifier 3, you know exactly what you're going for, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And it's not going to be man, I'm a fucking dad. I got 2 kids. I literally watched kids being blown up for like 2 hours in Terrifier 3. So I'm like, part of me, the kid back in the day that's like, "Fuck yeah, I love this shit," is like, is there, and then there's the other part that's like, "This makes me feel dirty inside."
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and I've
Yeah.
never felt these feelings before. Yeah, man, I really that entry really surprised me, and it was even better whenever you won 'cause, I think, most likely a lot of people feel that way because it's just this is the world that we live in, that we can something as crazy and bonkers as that can win. Whereas, like, in, like, any other social setting, it seems like it's always, like, very cookie cutter. This is film of the year. This is bloody blah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, I really love that so much to where I contacted you and just got it up there to collaborate with you. And you asked me what type of theme I'd be likely to go for. I'm like, I fucking love vampires, man.
Yeah.
Um,
That was in
uh,
my vampire era, right when you
yeah,
contacted me too. So
I
it's like
know. I
it's
was
good
like,
timing. Yeah.
holy shit! I've been wanting
Yeah.
vampires like crazy. Each and every time I look at, because they seem like pugs from outer space.
Yeah. Totally.
So Vampire Pugs from Outer Space is definitely going to be a game one day. But
I love what you did with them too. I love
they're
the sort of color choices you made with them. Really, it's cool to see. Like I made the mini, but you painted them in this way I never would have done, and it's just very cool. It becomes something neither of us would have made on our own.
right,
So
and that's the
that's
thing about collaborating that is the most fun to me, man. Like I've done it a few times, and it's always a fucking blast. Like I did it with Evan, one of the first ones I did, I think, if not the first one. But uh, yeah, it's always fun, man. And it actually genuinely, like, if I fucking saw that thing in person, man, what the fuck am I? I'm super fucked. So whenever you make something that's kind of, in essence, a little bit cute, and add the paint job that I did, making it cute-ish, it's
yeah,
also fucking terrifying.
yeah, yeah,
So just remember that. I just couldn't. I always think about what I would think a monster looks like whenever I was a kid, and that's
yeah,
exactly what the fuck it is.
yeah,
It terrifies the shit out of me.
yeah,
But do you are you a Cronenberg guy, or
yeah.
is
I love, yeah,
have you seen the Substance?
yeah. I loved it.
I would definitely have to agree with you. That is probably it's probably my favorite movie of the year.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
up there.
yeah, and it's because it makes me feel all the same feelings I felt whenever I watched any kind of Cronenberg, but
Totally. Yeah,
it's fucking wild, and I
it's
cannot wait to see more.
it's great. It's so and it just establishes this premise and just takes it as far as it can.
Oh,
Just the
it
the
takes it
end
as
with
far as
the
it can. Yeah,
insane, just blood soaking the audience. It's like a Guar concert. Just yeah, it's awesome.
it
But
totally is. Yeah,
yeah, and that I think having that sort of like very these like latex kind of gross body horror contrasted
yeah,
with like all the interiors are super stark and like almost like it's like a Kubrick kind of feel to things. Yeah, it
100%.
really
Yeah,
works. Like that really
yeah, and they even do
very cool.
the thing where we should end this movie now,
Yeah,
but we're
yeah,
gonna rub it in your fucking face a little bit more,
yeah,
and that's the thing that I'm like, okay, Cronenberg,
totally.
fucking
Yeah,
yeah, naked lunch type shit going on
love
here.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Did you
Uh,
see Crimes of the Future?
yes, yeah. How do you feel about that? Because
I really
I got a lot of weird
yeah,
feelings about it, but
yeah.
I still liked it.
So I saw it in a theater with like maybe three people, and I think at least two of them walked out.
Yeah,
It's just such a like ugly movie.
it's
I mean, I loved it,
it's
but it's aggressively ugly and
yeah, on
unpleasant.
purpose. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, but the point where I mean, the first scene is a mom smothering her kid to death with a pillow.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
okay, I'm in
God.
for it. But that was interesting to me because it's like Cronenberg had, he had this whole career as a horror director, and then kind of like he was still making sort of weird movies like with Eastern Promises and Cosmopolis and stuff, and then went back to a script that I think he wrote right after XIV's with Crimes of the Future, and it was kind of cool. It was like a return to form, but
Yeah, and I think the thing with Cronenberg is you know what you're getting in for, but you never know what you're getting in or going into it
totally,
with. Right.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's always the fun about it. Like that to me, I always thought that it would be amazing if a movie was marketed as something like a romantic comedy or a
yeah,
comedy or whatever, but
yeah,
actually it's the whole time it's a disguise for the thing that it actually is, which is
yeah.
awfulness. But
It's like
yeah,
halfway through somebody's face falls off, and
right. And
yeah,
everybody acts like it's cool. Uh
yeah,
yeah. I saw a few bangers this year as far as practical effects and body horror. Mr. Crockett is a fantastic one.
I've never seen that.
You need to watch it. It's on Hulu.
Okay.
It's very good. Gave me some kind of inspiration
Yeah.
there for something I'm going to be doing soon. Yeah, I'm a horror movie antic, like just like anybody else that's in
Yeah.
our hobby,
For
pretty
sure.
much.
Yeah.
But is there anything in particular that really kind of stands out to you, like a work that you always think of somebody else's? That is it like a specific thing, or does it change with time? Do you like the direction that you're going in? And
It changes, but there are certain things that I do go back to all the time. You ever see the show Scavengers Reign?
yeah,
So I
yeah,
watched that recently and I really liked it. And it kind of like brought me back to the Rene Laloux movies. So he did Forbidden Planet and Time Masters and Gandhar. And like Gandhar was one of those movies for me that when I was a kid, I rented it from like a grocery store. It was just randomly there. And it was like my favorite movie. And, I just didn't know it was this obscure French cartoon. I thought it was just
yeah.
like,
What
just
is
like a
that called?
cool Gandhar or Light Years sometimes. But
Gandahar?
yeah,
Uh,
but the whole premise with this movie is that like
yeah, I haven't seen that.
there's a utopian society, and they kind of discarded all the people that I guess are like the leftovers from all the experimenting and genetic manipulation they
Oh,
did. So there's like this
sweet.
society of deformed people that live underground. But like I watched it again recently, and I was like, all I've ever done is just trying to like, emulate what this movie made me feel when I was a little kid.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting for me because I usually have like 2 or 3 hours at the end of the night where my wife, who's a little bit younger than me, has passed out at 7 o'clock already,
Yeah.
and so I have some time to watch it. I'm definitely going to check that out. I don't think I've ever seen that. Speaking of which, now that we're going on an animation kick, animation is probably one of my favorite things, period. I think that most movies could be solved with an animation and that they should be in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. I recently just saw Mars Express, and if you can find in English dub or subtitles, that's a definitely one in my top 5 or top 10 from this past year. It's gorgeous. I mean, unbelievable. And Scavenger's Reign, whenever you were bringing that up, I found out about it whenever it first came out, right? And I put it on the back burner for the longest fucking time. And I finally rewatched it on Netflix whenever it was on Netflix, or still is, because I was like, they said that depending on how well it does on Netflix, they may bring out another season. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
gotta fucking watch this shit right now. And you're right, it's phenomenal.
Great. Yeah.
It's weird, it's wild, it's everything that I actually kind of think about whenever I think about your stuff. Or there's another guy that won as well. I'm not thinking of his name right now, but he also adds a lot of, it appears like green stuff or DOS or something to his,
Yeah.
but I can't think of what his freaking name is, and that's gonna drive me nuts. Yeah, it's wild to see some of those more heavy metal type
Yeah.
of influences that really you wouldn't think they would work. But one of my hall monitors that I made was based off of your style and
Oh,
just the weirdness
the
of it.
floating head
The
guy,
floating
right?
head,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. For
Both
sure.
of those floating heads are kind of like what remind me of your type of thing that you're going for with my painting style. But yeah, man, I really am starting to nudge my nose into that. Now I'm like, well, I'm gonna fucking build a guy mostly out of green stuff here
Yeah.
here in as my
For
next
sure.
project. So it's really good stuff, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people see that. Are you plugged in or not to anything about this Visterian thing?
I know.
I know between the Bolter and me, those guys were throwing it on with one of my close buddies, Bill. And I just didn't know they're about to have an event here in November, so I just didn't know if you were heading over there, or if you've met anybody. Have you been to any cons or anything?
No, I have, I've talked to a bunch of people, just through Instagram and stuff, but I've actually not met anybody in this community in person at all. I've just sort of been
Well, fuck, man, that's wild.
isolated over here in Buffalo. But
You've met me. So
yes,
yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
anytime I'm on the complete opposite coast and
Yeah.
you aren't already asleep, I'll be right there.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, and it seems like there are a lot of people because you're in Seattle, you're in Washington.
yeah, I was in
Yeah.
Texas for a while because
Yeah.
I was an art school student that went in the military somehow,
Okay.
uh,
Yeah.
and hated
Yeah.
authority for
Yeah.
14 years.
Perfect. Yeah.
Even though I signed up for it, it's kind of an oxymoron. That's fine. I'm out now, and I wanted to live around people that actually think like me for once.
Totally. Yeah.
Because I've never had that. I've always okay. I'm not going to make this about me, but I've always been around other-minded individuals, and
Yeah.
I've chosen to enter my era of peace now.
That's
Uh,
great. Are you from Texas?
no, I'm
Okay.
from St. Louis, Missouri,
Okay.
but I don't like home, and I'm in a place now where my own friends from Grimtex, an event that we had, they're like, "Hey, Brandon, we've really noticed that your mood is like completely improved and you're happy all the time." And I'm like, I just sound like I'm high all the time. That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there, so this is a question now that I asked since every beginning episode, like the first 5 episodes, is like, surely you're into heavier music. Surely you're into heavier music. And they never were. Not a
Yeah.
single one
Yeah.
of them. Do you listen to metal or hardcore or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I listen to a little bit of everything. I mean, mostly punk, but I definitely dabble in hardcore. You said Daughters, like I like stuff like that, or
Yeah.
Health. I've been listening to Health a lot.
Oh my
They're
God, man.
cool.
My producer, Barrett Lewis, just got a
Yeah,
fucking boner right now. He's raging. Yeah, I've
they
loved
actually
Health for
they have
so long.
they did a tour called Rat Based Warfare, and actually they had
Yeah,
the Skaven logo on their shirts, which I was like,
that's dope. I didn't know that.
yeah, it's like okay, like
They get it.
they
My
get it.
first ever music video from Health was the girl running away from the slasher.
Oh yeah,
And it is probably one of my favorite music videos ever. I don't
oh
know
yeah,
how many times I've fucking watched it. Health is a very important band in my friend circle.
that's awesome. Yeah, but
So
yeah,
that type of stuff.
yeah, but like I love Guided by Voices, and
Yeah. Yes.
that's sort of I've seen them like 30 something times. But yeah, I feel like metal is one of those things that it seems to like it's hard to find sort of an entry point if you don't know a ton about it.
For sure. Yeah.
And I I have friends that are really into black metal or really into power metal or whatever
Yeah.
like that. A buddy of mine got me into like Manila Road and
Okay. Yeah.
Merciful Fate stuff like that. But I don't know,
It's a very
it's
broad thing where it seems
oh,
like it's
it's
very
yeah,
point.
for sure. But it's cool. I mean, it's something that exists off on its own. I think in a really interesting way.
Yeah, I kind of listen to a smattering of things too.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be lying my ass off if I didn't tell you that most of the time in my head, Chapel Roan is playing.
Hey.
I,
Yeah.
it's always happening. I don't think that's ever happened with a pop star before,
Yeah.
ever. But she's got like bangers on that album. So
Yeah. Wait, who did a miniature of her recently?
Cole did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's real
So
cool. Yeah.
which led me to immediately hit him up and be like, hey.
Yeah.
So now we're
Yeah.
trying to get our hands on a pewter supply that we're basically
Yeah.
starting a criminal underground to create Chapel Roan characters.
I
And
feel like
spread
she'd
them.
approve.
I think so. I mean, she'd
Yeah.
approve much more than what everybody's being to her. Jesus Christ, let this
Yeah.
fucking girl be. She doesn't want
I
to talk to
agree.
you. She
Yeah.
doesn't want to talk to you. She doesn't want to be fake. Just leave her alone.
I think
Um,
people seeing what is should be like a normal reaction to that sort of stuff is
oh,
shocking to them.
I know it's so wild that
Yeah.
this wild animal won't let us stare at her while she's in her cage.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get it. It's rich people and stuff. I
Sure.
get it, people,
Yeah.
but calm down. I don't think she's got a lot of money now. But
Sure.
anyways, this is the Chapel Roan Defense Fund, and we are traveling all the way to Buffalo, New York. It's not actually Chapel Roan; it's a miniature of her.
Yeah.
I will pick it up on the way from Ohio for Cole, and we should be good. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Another great human being that you haven't met.
He sent me some minis
Yep.
that he made, and I painted them up, and they're awesome. And yeah, good dude.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, he's a great dude.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'd say that like that's probably one of the biggest. I mean, you liking punk, and I mean, it says a lot about you as far as this hobby. Because it is a DIY hobby. A lot of what Hives
Yeah.
Come says is very true.
Yep.
If not all of it. But the great thing about this is that it feels so freeing and fun. Like recently, for me, it was getting outside of my boundaries and building a building. for the first time or building the beginnings of a board. Is there something like that that you've recently done? Because that is probably one of the biggest reinvigorators ever for me. Like that was like
Yeah, just because it was something outside of like a normal.
completely different. I feel successful on it. I don't feel like anything's too over the top. At first I was like, man, it's so bright as far as like dealing with the one dead pig.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that gonna look like lipstick on there? But I wanted to make it prominent. So yeah, I love doing that. Is there, because I don't play uh war games usually. Do
yeah.
you
No,
at all?
not
Yeah.
really. I mean, I'm so much more interested in just building and like you know watching lore videos on YouTube or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know a lot of people that are into it around here.
Yeah.
I mean, if I did, I'd play some Kill Team or something. But yeah, I think a lot of people in the hobby, especially like in sort of the little subculture within the subculture of kind of like the ruler
Right.
stuff, I think for a lot of people it is just like it's about the building and the
Art.
painting and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that's pretty much
yeah,
what I've done too. Because I just played D&D. Would I like to? Sure. I mean, I'd like to play a game of Forbidden Psalm. I buy enough fucking books for it. I have
sure.
enough, like the art behind anything that has to do with Morkborg is awesome to me, anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
So I have a huge like too many books, man. I have too many books and all these games that I'm like I haven't played
Yeah,
one of them. Or you
I
get
like.
Vermis, like
Yeah, I mean, I I just ordered his new one and I can't remember the name of it, but
yeah, Godskin.
yeah,
Godskin?
Godskin. So haven't received it yet, but very excited for that. Vermis is
Me
awesome.
me as well.
But yeah,
Yeah, I did as well.
I mean, he's on a whole other level, I think. But I have a fair amount of RPG books too, and I've played D&D and stuff, but I really just kind of like them as their own thing. There's one called Bones of the Earth. It's Scrap Princess. I don't know if you know her work. She did the drawings for it, and the writer's name is Patrick Stewart, but it's not Picard. It's just his name. But
Yeah, yeah.
that was something actually like that book in particular. I think was sort of a piece of the puzzle for me. Like seeing that. Well, I think you'd really like her drawings. Like
What
they're very
you said her name was Scrap Girl?
Scrap Princess.
Scrap Princess?
Yeah, like it's not a type of drawing or artwork that you see associated with gaming usually, but I don't know. They're so like expressive and atmospheric, and the way they're kind of paired up with the writing, it's just it felt like kind of just a cool like piece of art or cool piece of literature that just was like wearing the skin of being a gaming book. But I almost can't see anybody really using it to play a game. It
Yeah,
just, but I don't know. Maybe like having it in that context, it kind of makes you think about it in a certain way, or like makes you think about that being an environment that could be explored, or like
right.
that you can
Exactly.
kind of project a character into. But
I think whenever you do things like Vermis
yeah,
or Vermis 2,
yeah,
you learn very quickly. I feel that I learned very quickly that this was what I felt meant to be maybe used for inspiration for any game in the future. But adding that type of element to it, that ambiance, that ickiness that we all love from Elden Ring and we all love from Dark Souls games. And it's almost to the point to where I like it so much that I don't want to seem obsessive about it. Um,
yeah, totally,
right? You
totally,
don't want to seem
yeah,
like that guy that's always like, "Oh my God, is he new Elden Ring thing? Fuck off."
yeah,
But yeah, I like it a lot, and it really speaks to me because I think whenever you first look at it, it doesn't make sense. Certain things just do not make fucking sense, which immediately makes you repel it. And then it's like a steady deep dive into the most horrific, fucking terrible. I
yeah.
mean, like, fuck. I mean, I just bought these. I've been waiting for a while. Which is
Oh
the
yeah,
Bone Forest
yeah,
fingers. And I'm super excited to use those. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of inspiration that goes into it, but you don't want to seem like the fucking crazy person about it. Like
no, totally, I get it.
coming in like you're actually dressed like your character and coming through there and like you're taking
Yeah,
yourself too seriously. Let's
yeah,
calm
yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. No offense to anybody that cosplays as Elden Ring on a daily life basis
yeah. I
to all
mean,
your friends,
more
but
power to you if that's
yeah,
what
I
you
mean,
do.
hey, yeah,
Yeah,
I love that you do that.
yeah,
I just don't
absolutely.
personally.
Yeah.
Right now, currently, since you moved your hair, I did notice a baby-faced thing on all fours up
Oh,
in your.
yeah. That's
Yeah,
funny.
that's.
Where is it?
He's
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
That's something I
Yeah,
made in undergrad. Can I grab it?
I mean, please do.
Yeah.
That's. We got an exclusive here, folks. The baby four-legged creature behind him.
Yeah, this was something I did in a sculpture class in college.
That is so fucking dope. You are such a weird man, and I love
Yeah,
it.
well, I remember like making this, and I had like my thesis show in undergrad, and so it was some drawings and paintings, and then I had like a bunch of these guys.
Okay, so question: was this before you saw Crimes of the Future?
Oh yeah, this was like in 2010.
Nick, what if you were the inspiration behind Crimes of the Future with all the years on the body?
I would love it.
I mean, now you are. You're
Not
famous,
that far
man.
from Canada.
You've made it. You
Um,
made it.
my brother went to the show like with my mom. You know, he liked weird stuff too, but he was like very upset by these. He was like, "Is Nick okay?" Like, yeah. But those were a lot of fun. Those were really, I guess, the first kind of like 3D sort of sculptures that
Like
I
foray that
made.
you kind of went into.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That would translate well. I mean, it's just you're going miniature. So
yeah,
that
right.
that
Just
is that. Well, I will have to say, dude, you've had to seen that thing at fucking night and shit your pants a little bit. There's no way that you haven't.
oh
Have
yeah,
you?
yeah,
Oh, yeah, man.
sure. I
That's
mean,
fucking. I mean,
we
it's
all have
supposed
our
to
like,
evoke feeling, but my
sure,
God, I
got our
would.
sleep paralysis demons.
My butthole would let go, dude. It would just. I would
Just
just shit
unclench.
my pants. Yeah.
Yeah,
I want things like that. I recently started like a little moth and bug collection
oh, yeah,
and stuff like that, but I know that I'm gonna fucking scare the shit out of myself one night with any of this. I mean, but I guess it's good. Anyways,
like
growing old is.
real moths and bugs,
Yeah,
like pinned
yeah,
up on. Oh, cool. Yeah,
and I've wanted to get into it myself, kind of.
yeah, totally.
I thought about that and felting.
Oh yeah,
Felting has a lot of the same vibes that I think that you can get from some of our hobby, depending
totally.
on some of the weird shit that goes on with that. But
Yeah.
so what's like? Do you have a next theme that you're going to be working on anytime soon?
Yes. So I've got a couple kind of projects in the works right now. I'm playing around with painting tattoos on
Mhm.
figures. So like I'm kind of doing these barbarian kind of mutant guys that have a bunch of like they're missing a bunch of facial features, but have like
Mhm.
the missing features tattooed on where they should be. So I'm kind of like I don't know. It's fun. It's like I'm painting up these figures and then it's like another surface to do a drawing over top the figure, like as an overlay almost. So that's been fun. Working on some like a Dark Eldar project, which is just like kind of a palette cleanser
Yeah,
almost because it's like been doing a lot of lumpy, goopy stuff, and I wanted to do something that was a little more like streamlined and kind of like had to
I'm
be a little
I'm
more
interested to
careful
see
with the
that.
sculpting. Yeah, it's been fun playing around with that, and yeah, working on some scenery pieces. I don't know. I kind of like to have a bunch of things going at the same time. Um,
Yeah, I get that. I mean,
yeah,
it's you like to keep busy. I get. I and
yeah, and I like to kind of jump around between
yeah, I
things.
guess is that because you don't want to lose interest in any one thing, or that's just where your attention.
Yeah, I kind of always worked that way. Like when I was painting, I'd have a few going because I feel like if you have like three projects going at the same time, like if you get stuck at all, you can just change directions, work on something else. It's just kind of a good way to like, I don't know, keep momentum going, I guess.
Yeah,
So
I get that same feeling. I mean, I had never sculpted anything before I did those. So I'm like, I'm getting to that point too where I'm like, there's needs to be a reason why I'm doing this and not
yeah,
because I'm not against selling.
yeah,
I, you know,
yeah,
uh, I love it. Art is art. Period. Like I've said several times on the show before, it's not cheesy. You're not like cosplaying as an artist. You're an artist. If you do this type of shit, you're an
yeah,
artist. I think that that's very important because it shouldn't be gatekeeping. But yeah, once you get to that period in your mind where you feel like that, then you're like, I can do fucking anything.
for sure. And
I
I think that
like
there's, oh no, go ahead.
no. I was just recently asked to. It was a very humbling experience because I just got recently asked to teach a class
That's
from the
great.
local game store, and I
Yeah,
was very surprised and made me feel great. And I think that a
yeah,
lot of people should do shit like that because
absolutely.
it's important. But
Yeah, for sure.
that's my little heartfelt moment.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot, like you were talking about felting. Like I think there's a lot of freedom in working in a medium like a craft medium, and I don't think that distinction's super important. But I think that for me, at least, if you want to be like a painter, like a fine artist, like there's so much weight behind that, and I feel like working, doing miniatures, like there's not a lot of pressure in the same way of like this has to be serious, like this has to be capital A, or whatever. And like, yeah, it's like Philip K. Dick, one of my favorite authors. I think he started his career like wanting to be John Updike, like he wanted to be like a serious author, and then he really only found his voice when he was just writing these pulp stories, getting paid a pennies per word. And I think there was no pressure, so he was really just allowed to kind of dig into his imagination. And
Right.
I mean, you know,
He was famously very opinionated, which was wonderful. Any of the interviews I've seen. Yeah, and I think that if you're coming from a place of understanding and love, then you can really do some fucking wild shit and get some inspiration for some wild shit in your art. I know
absolutely.
I've definitely stepped outside my bounds. You are the boundary breaker in a lot of your stuff. So right about this time of the show, if you watched the full episode, you probably looked at it, listened to it for 5 minutes, and like, fuck this kid. But we're at a little part where we call Kindness Corner. I'm going to
Oh yeah,
stretch my hand, and then Kindness Corner will appear. And that was my phone. Kids Elementary School. I do care about my kid, but this interview is more important. Kindness Corner. Could you put an image for me, Barrett, of a picture of Lindsey Graham with a bomb pop, winking at Donald Trump as he walks away? That would be fantastic. Around the realm of the fact that Lindsey Graham is an asshole. So we'll go ahead and put him out there. That's not the best one, but it will take the cake for this election. This is the last one for the election. Usually this section is, or this segment is for something that you've seen that's been wonderful in the hobby or that's been kind of inspiring in the way of community, but in to lift our spirits, because I know a lot of people are depressed around this time of year.
yeah.
Is there a message of hope that you would like to give to our audience, whether it be the two people at home knitting because their son is on the podcast, or I'm a turd. Is there any bit of love that you want
Yeah, I mean, just in general, like I think it's a really creative, incredible, supportive community. This is something I've talked about before just on my page, but like this was before I met you, but I had a sort of medical emergency about 4 years ago that required like quite a bit of money. That was, I had a pretty extended hospital stay, and my girlfriend at the time set up a GoFundMe. But the amount of donations and just well wishes that came in from people in the hobby that I never met. And Brian, the slug wizard, he made some minis and auctioned them off and donated the money to me. Like somebody, again, I never met in person, I just talked to, but like
It's
it's
crazy, man.
it was super moving. And like I just feel like there's so much positivity, and I feel like there's a really healthy, friendly competition of people like wanting to just like make the next craziest thing or like be inspired by the next person. But like I really don't feel like anybody is wanting to cut anybody else down, or
No, that's the one thing
it's
yeah,
it's
one
just
thing I've
it's really
never seen.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not. It wasn't my experience in Brooklyn in the art world. Like it's. I feel like it's genuinely like a creative community. Yeah, I mean,
Couldn't
it's
we
been.
just have a fucking commune somewhere, Nick?
Yeah, I would
Is
love
there
it.
like, I know that communes have statistically
Yeah, I think
worked
they
out
usually
every
work.
single time.
Always,
They've
yeah,
worked out every single time, Nick. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
that's true.
I would like to never enter another bad, unloving group of people ever again, because I've found like the greatest. Okay, let's just Grimtex. I met all of these people online. My crazy drives down to meet them down there, and I talk to these fuckers still. Like this French bastard that lives all the way in North Carolina, Bill in Texas, Gabby in Texas, all those guys, Sloppy, they're all great people. There's not a, and it's bound to happen. Not everybody's going to like everybody, but it's whenever you get something that's so good, why the fuck would you go back?
That's what.
Especially in our old age. No, the older you get to. I mean, it's like you just don't want to put up with that shit either.
Yeah,
And it's just such a cool group of people.
it really. Yeah,
Um,
it is.
it's pretty
It's
mind blowing.
Yeah, it is kind of mind blowing.
It's wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's just like in a funny way because, I feel like I've gotten from this weird, very specialized sort of niche community of people who make little weird monsters. Like I've gotten out of this what I think my idealistic 21-year-old self was hoping to get out of like being an artist in New York when I moved there. Like a real sense of it, like being a creative community of people that like support each other and like each other's work and like push each other to do better work. And it's great.
Well, I hope all the medical issues
Oh yeah,
that you had before far from being an appearance now.
Yeah, and they are. That was just like such a, aside from monetarily, it was just like that outpouring of support was huge and
yeah, man,
made
it's so
such
crazy.
a difference in a really really dark time.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I mean, and that's the reason why I did this segment. Usually people come on here, rightfully so, and they freeze up on the kindness corner portion. But this is the reason why I started this segment, and I just talk shit all the time. But yeah, this is the exact reason because I really have got us out of some really dark moments in my life through painting in the community. So, yeah, it's great to hear, man. I'm
And I
sticking
think
around for the rest of my life.
yeah, for sure. And for me too. The timing was perfect too because I was getting into it at the end of 2019, and it was something that really kept me sane during COVID lockdown too.
Yeah, I think
Like
that goes for a lot of people. Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I played a lot of Doom back then.
Yeah,
A
for
lot
sure.
of Doom.
Yeah.
And yeah, I totally feel that.
Yeah, I mean, it was
It's
just
such a dark period, but such a light period too. I was talking, the ironic thing about it is that I kind of hope I get stuck in my house again for 30 days and can't converse with like every single human being that I don't care for.
yeah. Aside from like the terror, that part of it was okay.
Yeah, well, I
Like
mean,
staying home
the
was
terror
was
period.
fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, it wasn't scary, right? None of us were scared. It was the mildest case of flu virus that I've ever heard of. It's so stupid. This is not going to be a misinformation podcast. I could see that Nick is getting visibly upset and is going to beat me to death after this. So if I go missing, he has traveled from New York. Nick, it has been awesome to talk to you, man. I've been following you for a while, and I will continue, and maybe sometime we can do it again.
I hope so. We should collaborate on some other movies because that was fun. And I love what you did with them. So.
Are you a Penguin watcher? Have you been watching Penguin?
I've heard really good things though.
You should start watching it. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Cool. Yeah.
You're a lovely person, Nick. You're great, man. Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me.
And you can again find him at moldmoldmold and myself at EDAW'S. Everybody take care and have a good night.
Hey there, this is Barrett from the ATI Podcast here to talk about what we have going on the ATI Podcast Network. First, we'll start with Waxing On with R and J. The format of Waxing On with R and J is audible selections made exclusively by our hosts and brothers, Ridge Jackson and Jake Jackson. Waxing On with R and J is sure to tickle your inner eardrums with some of the most vile tones you've ever encountered, and conversely, ear candy with pop melodies, focusing on spotlighting underground and rising artists. Waxing On with R&J is another outlet of the ATI podcast community to bring awareness to many musicians' craft. Also found on the ATI Podcast Network, NODNARB'S Closet, hosted by Brandon Stuart of EDAW'S. NODNARB'S Closet is a wing of the ATI podcast programming that delves into the world of role-play games, miniature painting, diorama making, occasional pro wrestling match watch-alongs, providing commentary with a dash of jocularity and satire, and much, much more. Of course, leading the pack is the ATI Podcast. On the ATI Podcast, we episodically invite guests onto our show to spotlight their talents, whether that's musicians, filmmakers, artists, actors, businesses, even athletes. Nothing is off the table. The focus of the ATI Podcast and its collective creative arms, whether that's waxing on with R&J or NODNARB'S Closet, is to bring awareness and focus to people's talents. Be sure to follow us across all traditional podcasting platforms, and for the full experience, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search the ATI Podcast. Stay safe out there.